But when it comes to these when we set out at Lead On years ago, we wanted to find what were the transcendent parts of leadership. No fads, no flavor of the month. So 2 important points. No matter when you talk about these principles, Alexander the Great, Abraham Lincoln, anywhere in history, they work. And 2, they're really not cultural. They're not some Anglo, white, they're people stuff. So you can go down to Kolyma. I've been to Paris, Moscow. You can go to Istanbul. And if you can speak the language and communicate and connect with people, they have the same problem in Istanbul today, generations at work. But the principles work, which are, we have to be cultural, that's the point of chapter 8 in our book, cultural translators. You were a cultural translator, there in Kolyma, and it worked, and 90% of the people responded. That's a crazy good number, and that happens in our family and without our family as we move. If you're leading a group of 2 or 200, I'll make some recommendations about how to keep people together and moving in the right direction. Everyone should have a weekly huddle. Everyone, 20 minutes. Everyone. You don't have a weekly huddle, face-to-face, WebEx, you're not doing your job as a leader. Because human beings have to connect, and they do that with their eyes first, okay? Got that? Now, as far as management teams, no way that you can do business effectively across borders with different cultures and ethnicities without having face time. So while the majority of our conversations here are about leadership, you can see that we easily could have taken until lunchtime to talk about a few HR issues that are passionate to some, about some business practices that are passionate to others, all of which matter to all of us. So I'm not going to tell you or pretend we're going to solve all these problems, but I don't know if you're on our senior management team between 12:30 and 2, how you can do that job and have any opportunity to succeed at any decent level without having regular and continual. So I don't know if that's bi-weekly, that seems okay, monthly seems too far apart, but it's your job to rally the people. We've talked about newsletters and WebExes and WhatsApp and there's all soccer games and all these. There's just a number of ways that we can connect, but the ultimate objective is connection, is to build rapport. Relationships are the center of the universe. It's one of our core beliefs. And because they're the center of the universe, the stronger your relationships, the more productivity and profitability. Also, in the books, they're formatted so that every page has cutouts, which are the cliff notes, and at the end of each chapter, in Corporate Family Matters, we have family time. We think that's kind of nifty and cute. And in the leading edge, we have the cutting edge. Those are questions that thousands upon thousands, literally, of executives and leaders have asked. They're the most important questions on this topic. But it's very important to go back and lead, because here's what's going to happen. By the first of the year, you're going to start to stick out in terms of non-performance, which is not going to be good for that review, whether it's once a year, twice a year, or that raise you want. It's not going to work well, because what we're going to do is circle the wagons. That's an old cowboy US. We're going to circle the wagons so that our world gets pretty small in fourth source. For those of you who remember, we went through 7 principles the first time we met, and I think number 5, or close to that, says that leadership is a what kind of process?
Internal intentional?
It is internal intentional, that's good, but the word I was looking for was developmental, which means that 2 things that are very important, okay? It's always going on, and it takes time. First thing we want to say is that nobody ever brings a problem in your family, whether it's, in my opinion, whether it's your personal or professional family, without an attached solution. Never. Ever. So 80% of the complaining gets thrown out the window. 2, you teach people to find a problem and what?
Solve it.
Solve it. That makes your life better. So problems and solutions are always connected. Now, you may not like the solution. Natalia may say, oh, nice try, but That's an HR nightmare, we're gonna get sued, so we're not gonna do that. But I like your attempt, how about if we do this, and then you keep them in the process, it's really important. So Yvonne brought up a very good point, which is that cascading. We're trying to always figure out, we have so much to do, how do we get this meeting throughout 400 people in Mexico and the rest of the US? How do we do it? If we go to $20 more million of the business, what are we gonna have, double the bodies or souls, or I don't know what it's gonna be, it's gonna be a lot of people. How do we do that? How do we keep the family as it grows? You know, family of 4 is one thing, family of 11 or 26 is another. It's cascading. So here's the deal. So as part of being a human being thinking with your mind, yes or no?
Yes.
Out loud. Is part of being a human being feeling with your heart?
Yes.
Is part of being a human being deciding based on the data in front of you and choosing, making good choices?
Yes.
Okay. So what's not cool is being too emotional. Who knows where that line is given the situation? If somebody comes in here and says, Steve, somebody close to you passed away during this meeting, and I fall to the floor, it would be uncomfortable, but most of you would understand, not outside the normal. But if somebody says, Wilke, your shirt's unbuttoned in the middle, you need to button, and I fall to the floor in hysterics, I'm a little weird, right? So that would be an overly emotional reaction. So here's the solution to the problem. We are all overly emotional every day. It's bad for business, it's bad for our health, ulcers, cancer, migraines, backaches. It's bad for your relationships, marriage problems, kick the dog. It's not good. So the line is, I gotta ratchet it down to being overly emotional. There's situations in business where I'm gonna be really pissed, and I'm gonna let you know about it. Vice versa. And there's situations where we get overly emotional all the time, and we create so much distraction as leaders for 400 people in Mexico and a few hundred others in the US. So you see the point. So don't be overly emotional. Only you know where that line is, and the people around you. And that's where you start to break down. Right? That's where the system breaks down. That's where the rapport and cohesion and intimacy breaks down, is when you're overly emotional. So the personal side of that is what we talked about earlier today, in that we need to respect and appreciate the effort, the time, the money. I made the play that this is coming out of your salary and bonus, technically, the way you run a business, to my understanding. So we gotta make this valuable. But we have leadership that says you're gonna take a day at every 30 or 40, and you're gonna get together. And we're gonna do that all over the country. And there's a big number attached to that. So that's the personal side. The professional side is we've talked about the fact that we don't have enough communication, we don't have enough connection, we're not as intimate as we need to be, and those are all important to business, whether you're from Germany or Latin America, or it doesn't matter where you're from, it's a people business, yes? What he's saying is that you can have the most intelligent, the most meaningful conversation, but if your delivery sucks, nobody gives a crap. You can have nothing to say, and if you have rapport and relationship and you're a good dude or dudette, the people will listen to you, yes?
Follow you.
So the whole thing is delivery. I mean, come prepared, don't come with the ridiculous content. But your delivery, people lose their audience all the time because they're moving too fast, or they're not sensitive or gentle or kind, and none of us have time to say things 2 or 3 or 4 or not be understood at all. It's a very important point. This is Wilke's 51% rule. You want to write this down. It's not in the books. I contend that 51% of the solution to any one problem is your responsibility. Because Wedge is here, if he's not doing his job, whose job is it to respectfully, politely talk to him?
Mine.
51% yours. The more personal vulnerability, openness, and transparency. 3 things: openness, transparency, and vulnerability. That's hard for most of us. The more of that there is, people will follow you. If you get out here and go Harvard Medical School on people that go, wow, that guy's pretty smart, a little bit ugly, but smart, they're not gonna follow you. If you get vulnerable, when I tell you stupid stories about me or my family or my kids, I get so many emails and comments like, that was really cool. That was like the only thing I'm gonna remember you said. I'm like, oh my gosh. But it's personal, because we all have stuff. So the first one is technical skills. You can see on here, see this little line about 2/3 up at the bottom, this little dotted line? See that line there? Do you see it says 1656? So when we developed these 20 years ago, I found out something interesting that fit the research. And that was this. When you go for an interview or you interview somebody, you got their resume or their vita sitting right in front of you, right? Why do we do that? Nobody gets in my office that hasn't been vetted. I get way too busy, way too important. Not gonna happen. So why am I looking at that? Get rid of it. That has no probability of what they're gonna do for you down the line. So we focused on IQ. Where'd you go? Oh, Ivy League school. Cool. You must be better than the person that went to Long Beach State. We know that has no relevance to the working world. We also know that the A students often end up working up for the C students. Think about that. The best and brightest don't always make it through the Naval Academy and then on to greatness.